At Alabama, AJ was the talk of the town nearly a decade ago, but after an underwhelming NFL career, many forgot about him until now, because the former Bama star is back, and this time in the XFL.
Off that play action move of his, sidestep left, come back right, Cooper's wide open.
Out of Mobile, it seemed like destiny for AJ to make his way to Tuscaloosa, and after leading his team to a state championship win, AJ got offers from schools like Auburn, Mississippi, and Tennessee, but once the Crimson Tide got into the mix, it was wraps. AJ was the only quarterback in the 09 class signed by Bama, so it wasn't a shock that he still got some action as a redshirt freshman. And crazy enough, his first collegiate touchdown was to good old Julio Jones in the opener, although a bit after that, he struggled against Auburn in the Iron Bowl after coming in for starter Greg McElroy. To end off that game, AJ threw 4 straight incompletions as Auburn came back from being down 42-0 to eventually win 28-27. Going into the following season with Greg leaving for the league, the starting spot was up for grabs between AJ and this guy named Phillip Sims, and although they were named co-starters, eventually AJ got the job and ran with it, as he put up over 2,600 yards and 16 touchdowns through the year, and upon that led the Crimson Tide to a natty win. After a pretty solid 2-year performance, AJ had the starting spot on lock going into 2012, and following a 9-0 start, things were looking peachy keen, with some even seeing him as a potential dark horse candidate for the Heisman. Although everything seemed great, things took a dip when wild enough AJ threw his first pick, and Alabama lost their first game of the season against Johnny Manziel and the Aggies.
4-man Alabama rush. Got him. No, they didn't. Oh my gracious.
After the loss to Johnny Football, the Crimson Tide went undefeated the rest of the year and eventually went on to destroy the Manti Te'o-led Notre Dame Fighting Irish in order to win their second national championship in a row. That year, AJ passed for an impressive 2,930 touchdowns along with only 3 picks, as he got a spot on the All-SEC second team and yet was still looking to take it up a notch going into what was his last year in Tuscaloosa. Considering the fact that AJ and the Crimson Tide were coming off back-to-back natty wins, the bar was high for them the following season, but an 11-0 start by some once again solid play by AJ seemed to make it feel normal, but then things took a turn for the worse as Auburn fired back and beat Bama in the Iron Bowl.
Are you serious right now, bro?
That game, AJ threw a 99-yard touchdown pass to Amari Cooper, but the loss overshadowed what was a good performance by my man, and upon that kept the Crimson Tide from going back to the big game as they lost to Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl. In his last year with the Tide, AJ had over 3,000 yards and 28 touchdowns through the year, as he was able to beat Greg's passing yardage record, and upon that was second in the Heisman voting to good old Jameis Winston. Not too shabby a way to end your time in Tuscaloosa, but considering that AJ didn't do anything all that crazy with the Tide, he was projected as a 2nd or 3rd round prospect going into the draft. Since he had such an impressive career at Bama, the fact that he was projected to be a 2nd or 3rd rounder should have been a surprise. But the thing about Crimson Tide quarterbacks is that they usually don't do much in the league until Tua, Hurts, and Mac came around. But no matter the case, my man AJ fell quite a bit.
The Cincinnati Bengals select AJ McCarron, quarterback, Alabama.
Sorry to stop the video, but since you're here, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below your favorite fruit. But anyways, back to the video. AJ was the 9th out of 14 quarterbacks taken that draft, and a whole lot of that was due to his seemingly overconfident and cocky attitude during pre-draft interviews, which I guess makes sense when you say that your best attribute is winning. All things considered, going into year 1 with Cincinnati, many were curious about whether or not AJ could live up to the hype, but being put on the reserve/non-football injury list due to shoulder soreness, and upon that being the backup to Andy Dalton, made it seem like a dream at best. So with that in mind, it wasn't a shock that AJ didn't do anything as a rookie, which probably was the ego hit for the 3-time national champ. Going into 2015, things had to get better considering what happened the previous year, and so after winning the backup job against good old Keith Wenning and Terrell Pryor during training camp, the hope was there that AJ would get some on-field action, and he did, but not anything crazy. The Bama boy did some stuff early on, but it wasn't until Andy fractured his throwing thumb when AJ was finally able to get opportunity to prove himself, and he did pretty well.
Kieran going long, looking for Boyd. Sideline, got it!
Got him.
After coming in against Pittsburgh, AJ put up a decent 280 and 2 touchdowns, but his 2 picks kept them from getting the dub as they lost by 13. Considering the fact that it was the most action AJ had seen since college, the performance was pretty solid, and thankfully enough, he was able to carry the momentum against San Francisco, as his nearly 200 and a touchdown helped Cincy get a dub. Following 2 pretty good games by the Bama boy, AJ was able to follow it up with 2 more to finish off the year 1-1, which was able to help the Bengals earn a spot in the wildcard against the good old Steelers. Seemed like pretty much an impossible spot to be in for AJ, but even though he didn't play all that great, his over 200 and split touchdown and pick was almost enough to get them the win. Keyword almost, as they lost in heartbreaking fashion 18-16. Going from backup to playing in a playoff game was not too bad a deal for good old AJ, but as soon as Andy came back to the starting spot going into the following year, the hype died down quickly as the former national champ was kept under 70 yards passing the next 2 seasons combined. After his rookie contract came to an end, and considering the fact that AJ had less than 1,000 yards in the 4 years he spent with the Bengals, you would think that the free agency market would be slim pickings. But interestingly enough, AJ was able to get a 2-year, $10 million deal with Buffalo, as he got yet another chance to compete for a starting spot. Interestingly enough, AJ was competing with the Bills' 7th overall pick Josh Allen and the absolute superstar in Nathan Peterman for the starting spot. And although once again, it seemed like another shoulder injury was going to keep him from yet another opportunity, thankfully enough, AJ received a second opinion, and it turned out he was fine to play in the next 2 preseason games. Injury or not, AJ was not able to win the job, and so he eventually was traded to Oakland for a 5th round pick in order to give Derek Carr a half-decent backup. But just like his stint in Buffalo, it didn't amount to all that much as he only had 1 completion for 8 yards all season, and so it wasn't a surprise that he was eventually released midway through that offseason. Thankfully for AJ, he didn't have to wait all that long before he was able to get a new landing spot, as the Texans signed him to a 1-year deal less than a week after being released by Oakland. Since he was behind a superstar in Deshaun Watson, not much was expected out of what AJ would do, except to simply be a safety net for one of the best players in football. To be honest, considering how the past few years had gone, it wasn't a bad deal, and dope enough he got to start against Tennessee in the last game of the season, although his 220 and a pick weren't all that great. Even though AJ didn't do all that much, he didn't need to, as he signed yet another 1-year deal to stay in Houston throughout 2020, although he only completed 1 pass all season. So with all that in mind, it wasn't shocking that AJ was released once again, as this time he signed to Atlanta on yet another 1-year deal. Just like every other pit stop, it seemed like AJ wasn't going to do all that much, but this time he didn't even get the chance as he tore his ACL in the 2nd preseason game and was placed on IR before the season even began. Following years and years of countless ups and downs, an injury like that seemed to be the sign of the times for the Bama boy. But after waiting a year and a half, he was able to get opportunity in one of the places you'd least expect it. I would have shown a cool draft clip or something, but AJ simply got picked up by the good old St. Louis Battlehawks, and once again was given a shot to prove that he was a real deal. And let's just say that he sure did.
McCarron, end zone, has a player, caught!
Although he hadn't thrown a touchdown since 2015, and upon that was coming off a torn ACL, AJ showed up big time for St. Louis, as his nearly 202 touchdowns helped them rally back against Arlington and win in thrilling fashion.
McCarron has a receiver!
AJ is back, and it seems like he found his home in St. Louis, because although it might not be NFL stardom, it's professional football, and I'm sure that my man is just happy to be getting a chance to be a star once again. Honestly, I'm thrilled that AJ is able to get a shot to do his thing with the Battlehawks, because he deserves it after riding the back seat for team after team, and his wife is well aware how tough it has been for him as his cheerleader through it all, and without a doubt her and his kids are a big reason as to why he stuck it out so long and got in here in the first place. After a solid career at Bama, but a rough time in the league, it would be awesome if AJ would be able to find his own in the XFL. But even though he played well, nothing is guaranteed, so it's simply up to him to prove whether or not he'll be able to become a star once again.
With 3 minutes left.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and peace out.
During the broadcast of the game, your girlfriend got a lot of airtime.
All right.